Hello and good afternoon, good evening, and in some locations, if you're in Australia, good morning. Welcome to this week's new episode of X Vlog Live. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and I want to say a big thank you for everyone that is here for today's new episode. I mean, we have some topics to get into. We're going to be talking about what the Wulong developers had to say about Xbox in Japan, about Game Pass. We're also going to be talking about Call of Duty. I mean, the numbers, Mav, this weekend were absolutely bonkers. Even people like me who have not played COD in years jumped in, had a good time, and the numbers are just staggering. And it makes a lot of sense as to Sony's concern about Microsoft potentially owning Call of Duty because my God, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of concern because, well, they don't have their own first-person shooter because they haven't made one. And we're going to get into why they haven't made one and why someone like Nintendo made their own shooter in Splatoon, and it happens to be one of the most popular games in the world right now. So if little old Nintendo can do it, little old 720p Nintendo Switch can do it, how come Sony can't? Well, that's a question that we're going to tackle. And folks, the breaking news of the day, I mean, look, I know there's going to be people in the chat that be like, you know what, Boom, your channel has turned into a hate Sony channel. But I think that it's fair to say that when Microsoft makes the mistakes that they have made in the past, I give them the righteous smoke they deserve, and I do it fairly. And I think that Sony has once again stepped on it or stepped in it, depending on your terminology. And this PlayStation All Stars program or Stars program that they have launched in Japan has been hit with mass criticism because, quite frankly, it is the dumbest thing I have ever seen in my entire existence. And we're going to break that down. You're laughing, Mav, but you know what? It's the truth. And speaking of Mav, he is my special guest here today. Mav from Front Speculation, who does an amazing job with PM in the PM. He has his Xbox show on Friday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, along with a host of other Twitch streams and playthroughs that he does on his channel. How you doing, brother? Welcome.
Doing pretty good, man. I'm finally able to be here on X Vlog, dude. I've loved this show ever since you started it. You're doing the whole 5 nights thing, 5 days of
Yeah, 5 days streaming
shows.
5 days. It's hard,
crazy.
but I'm quite enjoying the challenge.
Yeah, that's amazing, Boom. I'd love to see that though. It's completely awesome. And there's room for 5 days worth of double barrel gaming content. Absolutely,
sir.
people crave it.
Thank you.
But yeah, man, it's been doing pretty good. I am interested in these topics very, very much so that you sent the one that we just found out about. You know, it is pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
You want to get into that now, Boom?
You know what? Let's rip the Band-Aid off, as they
Okay.
say in the playground. Ladies and gentlemen, I pulled a story this morning that was dropped into my DMs by multiple people.
Yeah.
And it was written by Chris Scullion. He is one of the editors over at VGC, one of my favorite places to get news. And that, of course, is short for Video Games Chronicle. I want to say that I had to read this twice, ladies and gentlemen. And I had to read it twice because I thought that I had misinterpreted it. So because I don't ever want to sound like a boob live on the air, I got to make sure that I get this stuff right because, well, it's important to do so. So the titled article says PlayStation is giving Top Stars members priority in customer service. Now, I'm going to read this again for you folks because you're probably sitting in your car, at work, in the gym, lifting those big weights, and you're like, what did he just say? And I quote, PlayStation is giving Top Star members priority in customer service. And this is what it is. It says this: players are criticizing the move, which implies other users will get poorer service. Okay. And the article, again, which I'm reading verbatim, written by VGC, Players in Japan have been expressing their displeasure at one of the aspects of the newly launched PlayStation Stars loyalty program, which offers better customer service to players on a higher tier. Really? Well, this is what it says. PlayStation Stars, which is coming to the West later in October, lets players earn rewards by completing a variety of campaigns and activities. Obviously, when you're playing PlayStation games. However, oh wait, I'm sorry. The program also has a four-tier level system, meaning tiers 1 through 4, and the higher you get is the maximum level you can get is 4, or everyone starts out at tier 1. Now, according to the article, the you can get to level 4 by purchasing games and earning trophies. However, some users are upset at the level 4 tier, which is unlocked after, check this out folks, buying 4 full priced games from the PlayStation Store and earning 128 rare trophies, rewards players with improved customer service. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. I'm reading verbatim. According to Sony, the level 4 tier perks include a commemorative collectible and a promise. Get this, folks, that when contacting PlayStation customer support, you will be given priority in the chat order. I mean, what year, ladies and gentlemen, are we living in where by buying games, you could make it up to level 4 and then get better customer service than me because I didn't buy 4 games? This is marketing 101 disaster. But let me read you what some of the people are saying from Japan. One user says customer support must be equal. There are people who only like a few titles and play them, and there are gamers who can't afford money or time. Another user says, you say that the more you play with it, the more you prioritize customer support. But the more you play with it, the less you use customer support. There's something off about that. You should give priority to beginners who are new to the game. And here's one other one, Mag. If you're going to up a level based on time played or something, that's fine. But ranking them by how much you charge is not likely to get a very good response. And he's right. Listen, Mag, this is once again, people, again, if you're going to accuse me of piling on Sony, I'm not going to argue. I don't go out of my way to do it because they make it super easy. I mean, look at the last couple of months. They have stepped in it time and time again. As a matter of fact, I think it was Keosante that said they're walking around their yard where there's a bunch of rakes and they keep stepping on the rakes, slapping themselves in the face. And that's what it seems like. Like, who in the boardroom sat down and said, you know something? Let's do this tier system that gives players NFTs, which no one gives a flying shit about, and prioritize players if they call customer service. And then you just look over to the other side over here and you say, well, wait a second, look at the Microsoft rewards program. I mean, just Friday, we learned from Dreadpool. And no, I'm sorry, maybe it wasn't even Friday because I think he was on the Xbox Factor podcast this Tuesday. He said that he's buying his second Xbox Series S with points from the reward system. That means that he's already bought one and he's buying another one. He's not going to get any better customer service, but he's getting a Series S times 2. I mean, listen, Matt, if you had a chance to read the article real quick, is this another black eye for Sony? Am I picking on them, or are they just literally hanging themselves out to dry?
I'm hoping they take the feedback there and change it. Sometimes when they launch these programs, they do it in only smaller territories or certain areas first, so that way they can kind of test it out. So it doesn't seem like people are very happy. I would also kind of feel like an asshole with a being a 4-star member or whatever. I would feel like so I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because we had there's a restaurant here called Saltgrass Steakhouse, right?
Okay.
And they have a like rewards program. And if you buy like their card, you get like a free thing on your birthday, and then you get like
Kind of like
points
Fridays
rewarded,
used to
and
do,
yeah,
like with you get the free appetizer and
you
stuff.
get like
Yeah,
points
yeah, yeah.
rewarded. You can get like free food over time and stuff like that. This is an amazing steakhouse. Shout out to Suck. But the one thing that the perk of the card does is like lets you skip the line. So you can pay like $20 and you just forever get to skip the line when you go to the steakhouse. And this just reminds me of like an evolution of that, but with like much more expensive and with games, and you have to earn your way to that status. Um, it's absolutely ridiculous to offer different levels of support. And now the question is like, is the support better? Is it a different team because they have to, or they just
No, it
fishing you
it
up to the
just
front of the
skips you.
line?
It just
Right.
skips you ahead. It doesn't
Yeah.
give you any. You basically you're not talking to rocket scientists
Yeah.
versus talking to someone that just has a regular degree. I think that if that's what you're implying,
As
no, it's literally the same customer service.
as as much as somebody that like eh, hates waiting in line on phone, like I hate waiting on hold. I would still be understanding that there's other people that are there needing help. So I would think it's a dumb incentive to offer, right? Like they could do better with coming up with things. A skip ahead thing is just not very good, and it's also kind of goes to the whole anti-consumer approach. We respect the
Yeah,
players that are willing to pay more money, which went with all of their price increases. You know, they increased the price in a lot of territories as well. So again, the for the payers mantra, even I guess is part of their customer service plan. For the payers is not only part of their model for people getting into the ecosystem, but it's also how you're going to treat your customers with customer service. That's pretty dang crappy if you ask me. I don't know, man. The person who had made that quote boom about new players needing more help, I would find that to probably be true. And a lot of those people aren't gonna have spent all that money and earned all those rewards to get to that tier, right? So
right.
it's frustrating. I think honestly as well, like as far as customer service goes, I think where Xbox does have a lot of the rewards programs and they have a lot of these awesome things, like, and this is what we got to compare here is apples to apples with rewards. Rewards programs have been really amazing on Microsoft, and they've tweaked it and changed it a lot. And but if you take full advantage of it, you can get Game Pass for free every month if you want, or
Pretty
save it
much,
up
yeah. By
and
just
get new
playing games,
things
absolutely.
and all
Going
these
to
different
Bing,
things.
answering questions. Yeah,
And when they showed PlayStation Stars last time, all that they showed is these little digital collectibles, right? And that was their big thing. Is like, oh, cool, a digital thing. What about money, like rewards? I want to know about that, right? What about other things, as well? A skip ahead thing is not something I would be uh, advocating at all, and I'm hoping that's something they do away with. The customer service and gaming, as far as like technical help and support, has gone downhill the last generation period for most companies.
yes.
Uh,
Microsoft's listen. Let's not fake the funk. Microsoft's
yeah,
customer service is just as egregious because you have to send a text. In order to actually speak to a real person, it takes a lot. Like it honestly does take a lot. Where back in the days, you used to call 1-800 for my Xbox,
yeah,
and they'd ask you what was wrong, and you'd wait online, or wait on hold for however long, and that was fine. Now you can, in fact, you can speak to somebody, but it does take a minute to get there. So yeah, both customer service aspects aren't great,
yeah. I would say
and
that Xboxes is better than Sony's, especially with what they're willing to do for customers as well. They have an easy way to get
yes.
refunds and stuff like that online.
Well,
Uh,
Sony, they don't give
Right.
refunds.
So Microsoft does get around the necessity of as many calls for things like that, where PlayStation you're fighting a battle every single time you need to do anything, right? Anytime you have an issue with the game, or if it's a game that needs a refund or whatever, is you're fighting a war right there, right? And this gets you to the front line of that war. I don't know. It's just a dumb idea, period. And they are also wrestling with anti-consumer type issues as well. You know what I mean? They've been in these territories where they have the lead, where they're raising prices and everything like that as well. They've been fighting the Activision Blizzard deal against Microsoft and Xbox, complaining about potential future abuse of consumers, where they're currently doing it as the dominant market and the dominant market position, right? So anything they do like this should just be brought to the table and showed to these regulators to help the case against Sony. In my opinion, like even something as small as this is still kind of a move that kind of showcases that they are prioritizing people that are premium uh, payers as opposed to just the overall players.
And again, not to use it as as a funny, but when you talk about for the payers, this is what we're talking about, folks. I mean, like who is going to defend this? Who's going to turn around and say, yeah, boom, this is a really good idea. This is well thought out. I think it's ridiculous. Again, shout out to VGC for being one of the first people to get out there and put this out on print and let us know that this was happening. Again, when it was first announced, like many things Sony does, you're reading it and it's very confusing. It's like a hidden treasure map that you're trying to find the skull and bones, and they're sending you to the left, to the right, to the center when you really should have went back. And that's how Sony does their things. I'm not a big fan of that at all. But when I was looking at it, I actually, again, just to confirm myself, I said, you know what? I asked KSN this morning, I said, did I miss where they said there was a monetary value to this? Are they giving me gift cards? Can I buy, can I save up these points to get God of War? And the answer is no. They give you, at least from what have seen so far, it doesn't work that way. Microsoft lets you trade the points in for gift cards. 23,000 gets you a $25 gift card. X amount of points get you a 50. There are people that just save onto these points for the rainy day. A perfect example is Dreadpool. He has over $300 worth of points. That's freaking crazy. That's bonkers. So yeah, again, shout out to VGC. I got it again. Man, I just don't know what happened to Sony's marketing last gen. Mav, they were the dominant force. They did
Yeah.
everything right. They said everything correct. They made it seem like, even though they were, their customer service wasn't great and their return policy has been nothing short of garbage. They were putting out good games, and and they just were doing the right things. But now that we're getting into the minutia of who Sony really is, hard not to argue this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely making a stronger case this generation that they are arrogant. They're showing their true colors, right? Like they gained a lot of market the last gen, right? They it was really close in the 360 PS3 era, and they came out swinging like towards the end of the PS3 era. They came out, like, doing everything that they knew the players wanted it to hear and see, and, rubbing any negativity Xbox did back in their face with immediate announcements about cool things or like, "Hey, well, this is how we do it over here," and they were taking advantage of it, and they used it, very well, and they made a lot of great games, right, as well the last generation. They absolutely crushed Xbox. But they got into that arrogant phase over the last gen to the point where they're reverted back to their mentality that they had going into the PS3 generation to begin with, which was we're better than the rest. We can do what we want. We should be the
Yep.
ones dictating the industry. That they feel like they can charge what they want to. They can pressure the industry to charge what they want to. And the players are going to come along for the ride because they see the value in it. And at some point, the players will stop accepting it, right? And you've already seen, even though Sony's still doing well right now, and their PlayStation 5 is still selling out and everything, you've seen a huge market share shift this gen, right? A lot of people are attracted to value. And when you're not seeing that value returned as much on the side where you've been there, and value takes many forms, right? It takes care of where you're treated well as a customer when you enter into an ecosystem, and things like the reselling remakes over and over again, or director's cuts, and instead of free updates, the whole controller issue not being compatible on the PS5. Now you got the PSVR 1 and PSVR 2 games, PSVR 2 not being able to be played on not being able to play PSVR 1
I'm one of
games, and
those
you got
guys that are gonna suffer. Mag, I have 30 games.
yeah.
I got 15 physical, 15 digital. I got the PlayStation VR right over there, right behind me.
Yeah,
I got
and how
the I
much did
got
you
the
spend on those games?
well, I bought a lot of them. I bought at full price. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Especially
So
the
that's a
digital
lot of
stuff.
money, right? That's a lot of
So
money that
yeah, man.
and then you're gonna have to be having old hardware to access for a long time, and it's eventually they're gonna stop making those games. So it becomes a piece of retro tech,
Yeah.
right? And that's in this day and age, that we should be past that.
Yep.
That like especially in the age of digital games and digital era where we're purchasing these things, and we're buying future iterations of the same hardware, and they're going to make it to where you can't play any of the digital items you purchased in that storefront. It's just ridiculous. It's time for that to move forward. Forward compatibility is equally important, and that's why the whole remastering these or updating these games, director's cuts, and reselling, and all of these situations is also ridiculous. So you add all of that on top of this, and now the last little thing is like, hey, because you pay, we treat you better.
Yep.
And that's the icing on the cake,
And
right?
not just a game. 4 full priced games
Well,
from
if
the
there's also
store.
more there, it says that you have to get a
You
certain
got
amount of like
128 trophies. Yeah, special
right.
trophies. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think those are part of probably the reward system that you have to accomplish as well, right? So, but I don't know exactly that the 4 games thing is just one aspect of it. Do they have to be PlayStation first party games? Are they gonna be any games? Or what price are the games gonna be? Can they be little indie games? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Is there a certain dollar amount there that they want you to reach before that's actually check marked? It's just a ridiculous notion to have that in gaming. You know what I mean? Um, it just adds on to everything else, man. And I think overall, because you have the Game Pass and everything to compare it to, you're just going to see more transition. And that's not something Sony wants, but they've already been seeing it. So while they keep doing these things, it's been in Xbox's favor, especially in the US. But even Japan, they're gaining favor right now with Xbox, even though Sony has a dominant lead there still. You're seeing more positivity come out there. You're seeing more people get access into the ecosystem. You're seeing more people try Game Pass on their phones and all these other different devices, right? So I do think there's a future there where potentially Sony looks at this and be like, well, we screwed up. We got a little full of ourselves and we need to start making some changes. The question is, what will it take for them to get to that point? How much market share do they need to lose to get to that point?
Yep.
Because
Exactly.
they're playing a game right now of like risk versus reward. Okay, well, our reward is 10 extra bucks here and there, or like $50 on these consoles here. How much is that going to cost us in sales? And right now, their risk is that they don't have any because they're going to sell out of all their consoles regardless, and that's basically what their ecosystem is the consoles. But in the future, 5, 6, 7 years from now, the ecosystem for PlayStation is not primarily just the console, right? The ecosystem is everything. So if you have one ecosystem that's mobile, PC, console that has way better value, and then you have another one that is expensive and treating your customers like they are, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna fly. So I think they're gonna see a transition at some point. But Sony's also been known for selling their name for a long time. They've been the arrogant company in the TV business for a long time. And where's that gotten them now?
Yep.
Selling the TVs at a higher price than the competition for quality, which I loved Sony TVs. I did. I thought they were the best. And eventually, guess what? Now who has market share there, right?
Samsung. Yeah.
Samsung,
Yep.
LG.
LG.
Like Sony's not even one of the like. I mean, they're a big player, obviously. You know what I mean,
They're
but they're
not a
not.
major player like they
They're
used to
not
be.
not like
Yeah.
they used to be. Like how many Samsungs and LGs and stuff are out there over Sony TVs now, right? Anything can change. Anything can change in the consumer electronics and business with market share, with leads. One thing can seem like it's untouchable and always going to be number one. It's been that way for 20 years. It's not going to change.
Nope.
It can change. It happens all the time,
Well,
and
again,
we'll
that's
see if it
that.
happens to them.
And I got news for you. That market change is going to potentially come, and we're going to get into in a second why that market change is going to happen. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the Call of Duty beta from this weekend, and folks, wow. Um, Call of Duty, a lot of people were like, "Yeah, it's not as popular as it used to be." This, that, and the third, folks. I'm here to tell you that is wrong because we're going to break down the numbers. They're quite impressive. But before we do, we got to welcome in a new channel member, Primus Gaming, brother. Thank you so much for that. That is very kind of you. He has become a new channel member. We also got to catch up with some of the super chats. We got a big bomb over here from someone that has been a big, huge supporter of the channel. Want to shout him out momentarily. Let me just find it and get to it here. We had Danny Passion Official drop an outstanding $5 super chat. Danny, what's going on, brother? Welcome back to the program. He says, "Hello, guys. Hey, thanking God that the Hurricane Ian didn't hit my area as it was expected, dude. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy for you and your family. I prefer Xbox refund system over Sony refund system. Yeah, 10 out of 10. But more importantly, I'm so glad that you and your family are safe. Yeah, that storm is serious, biggest one in U.S. history, and a lot of people got affected. So of course, Mrs. Boomstick and I offer our hopes and prayers for everyone that are affected. It took power down, took houses down, homes were torn to pieces, neighborhoods were destroyed. I just hope that everyone is okay. I want to thank everybody that is here. We got over 300 people here. A lot of new faces here. If you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider hitting the subscribe button as well as the like button. We have Drawn TJ who drops a ridiculous and outrageous $50 super chat. And he says, "Hey, Boom and Mav, what's up, guys? I think Microsoft will get the studios they are working with first. I think after that, they go and get CD Projekt Red and Capcom and or Square Enix as the last two studios to get would be NetherRealm or Rocksteady." Yeah, well, I don't know what their bigger plans are going to be. I mean, we talked about it last night in Primetime Gaming, where it has been suggested by Ifran Khan and Jeff Grubb, who talked about that specifically on last week's Giant Bomb, where they have heard that Microsoft has been in talks with Japanese developers, but also Japanese publishers. And the more and more we think about it, that we keep discussing it, it was brought up in conversation that the big play could be a company that no one is expecting, and that's Square Enix, because, well, they want to be bought because they can't afford, according to themselves, we can't afford to keep making games. We want to partner and make all these different relationships. It would be a drop the mic moment if Microsoft swung in there, bought Square Enix, and now they would be literally the RPG rulers of the world. Because not only would they win in RPG, Western RPGs, but they win in JRPGs as well. It would be earth shattering. But for me personally, like many, I want to see them go after Sega. That's just me because I'm a Sega stan. Um, Let me see. We have any other super chats that popped in here. I think we are up to date. All right. Well, listen, as we get to 325 people, Mav, I want to go to the next story. And this is reported on good friend of this program, friend of the community, and analyst extraordinaire, Benji Sales. He posted this on September 27th, where he talked about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 beta was the biggest in Call of Duty beta history. The history of Call of Duty betas. This is numero uno. Most hours played, most players, and most matches played. Call of Duty 2019 is the fastest selling Call of Duty of all time. This game is going to be an absolute behemoth this holiday, and I don't doubt what he is saying. Mav, this is a two-headed monster conversation that we're about to have. First of all, I want to simply talk about the beta numbers because you played it, I played it, a lot of people in the chat played it. I really enjoyed it. And my first couple of matches, I had to get my sea legs because I hadn't played Call of Duty in a while. And then I got on it, and I was racking up 10 double-digit kills almost every match. I jumped in some of the vehicles. I picked the class I picked is the one that had the machine gun and the rocket launcher. I don't remember what class that was. That's the one that I like the best, to be honest with you.
Mm.
And it's like it was so impressive for me because remember, I haven't played Call of Duty since the 360 days, multiplayer. So it's been a minute. I went out and bought the $90 edition. I didn't buy the $100 edition because I'm not spending an extra $30 for a box of
Yeah.
whatever. That's ridiculous. $10 more, sure. $30 more, not that's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. So I got one of the bigger versions. I normally don't buy them. I just get the single player because that's okay with me. When you hear this, Matt, these numbers, does this prove that Call of Duty is still a behemoth?
Oh, and yeah, of course. They had a couple of down years. I mean, not really down. I mean, Black Ops Cold War was really successful for them, but it wasn't Modern Warfare 2019. Vanguard was the worst, probably success that they've had with Call of
Yep.
Duty in many years now. It's actually Vanguard is the only Call of Duty I have not bought since Call of Duty 2. I
I
bought
didn't buy it
every
either.
single
I didn't
one,
buy it either. Yep.
and I play a lot of COD. I play a lot of shooters, period, right? Um, but I knew all along this was going to be a massive hit because 2019 was, and Infinity Ward is behind this game, and I expected if it's what Modern Warfare was in 2019, and they take that and they evolve it even more, then dude, like that's checkmate right there. And as down as COD has been a little bit the last couple of years, they are going to come back in full force and be bigger than ever with this
Yeah.
release. I remember when the whole Activision Blizzard acquisition was announced, and I believe it was Jason Schreier and some others that had come out and kind of talked about, hey, well, the next games are going to be like the real next step, like a bigger, I remember even some of them were going to be current gen only. I can't remember the exact quotes then, but the thought process was always for this to be really the launch into this real current gen now for this game, to be like the showpiece. And Infinity Ward has been the ones that have been the real true Call of Duty players for me. Now Treyarch is great. I like their games as well. But back in
Sledgehammer
the
is very good as well.
yeah. But Sledgehammer's all right. Yeah, they do a lot of different things that for me their Sledgehammer games are the worst of the bunch. They were the ones making Vanguard, and that game wasn't ready, and they ended up having Treyarch have to release the other COD earlier, which forced them to release something that was they kind of skipped, right? So Sledgehammer's caused some issues within themselves, but overall they are a talented studio. But I think my ranking for me would be like Infinity Ward, Treyarch, Sledgehammer, and there's a while there that Treyarch took the mantle, right? And a lot of newer players up until 2019 would have been like Treyarch's the main COD studio because once Vince Zampella and Jason West and all those guys left Infinity Ward and started Respawn, they took a lot of the talent with them, and people were like, "Well, what Infinity Ward is going to be a shell of itself." And then the next Infinity Ward game was Call of Duty Ghost, right? And I was like, "Oh, what is this? Doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like what we expect out of them." And then you had, some good games, but they started dabbling with the futuristic ones, like Infinite Warfare, Advanced Warfare, and some people really like some of those games. But it didn't really get back to the roots of what COD is for me when it really grabbed me and made me like really pay attention. And that's when Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare had originally was when this 2019 Modern Warfare game, right? Then 2019 Modern Warfare game was like, "Oh my gosh, COD is back. This is amazing. Best COD in years." And I was completely addicted to that game as well. I played a crap ton of multiplayer. Finished the campaign. The campaign was amazing. Team deathmatch was amazing. The maps were great. Everything was great. And then this announcement, when they started talking about all the modes that are going to be here, and then the Warzone 2.0 and all these things, it's like, yes, this is going to be the biggest Call of Duty ever. And it was proven by the beta. Regardless of what people say on Twitter that are trying to nitpick this and that, right? This is going to be massive success. This is going to be a big deal. It'll be the top selling game again this year. But I think it's going to do numbers like we haven't seen yet in COD, even. I think this is going to become that next level, which is Call of Duty's already been at a next level. This is going to be next level, and this will be a one that people are going to be playing for many years. And in fact, they're actually doing a 2-year transition after this game, so we're not getting the yearly release now, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to be playing Modern Warfare 2 for at least 2 years without a new Call of Duty game. So that's going to be pretty cool to see how what they do with that time span, that they're gonna have more time to do more content on this thing. But yeah, dude, it's gonna be freaking amazing. I think this is gonna propel Activision Blizzard a little bit too, because had been down ever since all the controversies and everything had come out, and people, saying that they don't make good stuff anymore or anything like that as well. Once this hits, this is gonna be the conversation everywhere is Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
and it comes on the cusp of the announcement that it's going to be eventually first party,
Yeah.
and yeah, I do want to jump on that specific point because obviously uh, it was announced in January, and we've covered it on this channel. Hogue Laws covered it, the Iron Laws have covered it, you've covered it. Pong Soul's in the chat. Shout out to Pong Soul. He's covered it with Steel. It is the biggest deal in gaming. It is the biggest franchise in gaming still. This beta proves it. Um, it makes perfect sense as to why Sony is so in their feelings, so to speak. Because well, once this becomes first party, even if it goes, it stays multi-plat. Like I've said it before, and I've been very bullish about this. I personally could care less if Call of Duty stays on PlayStation because I am an Xbox Game Pass subscriber. So I know that that is where I'm going to be pressing the download when the game comes. I know that all of the bonus stuff that comes with it is probably going to be for Xbox Ultimate members. So most people are going to be Ultimate members, and you're going to just press the down button or even the pre-install button weeks before. So when the game comes out and your system's on sleep, it's going to download automatically. You're not going to have to do anything. And I think that is a big deal. It is a monster deal. And I think it's one that is why we're getting this pushback from Sony because their bread and butter, or as Kay Santa likes to say, their bread is buttered by the fact that they make all of this money on Call of Duty. So, I mean, the question now comes because of the success of what we just saw, the beta, right? And remember, PlayStation gamers had it a whole week before, right? They had it a whole week before, and that's due to the marketing deal. Xbox gamers came in. I believe. What is it this week? Is it everyone available, or did they stop? Oh, I think they actually stopped. I think it was towards the end of the weekend. That was like it's for everyone. Um, my question to you, Mav, is when you see these numbers out there and you see the response from Jim Ryan saying that the 3-year extension was inadequate, do you understand that their frustration and really who's to blame for this? Is it Microsoft for having the money to buy Activision, Blizzard, and King, or is it Sony's fault for sitting on their hands all of these years? Right, right. They
Yeah.
clearly have dedicated their entire studio to making games that I appreciate. Like I'm a fan of the single player, over the shoulder, story driven, adult themed game. That's my bag. but it's not everyone's bag. A lot of people like those. Well, those are one and done. Boom. I like a game with multiplayer. That's something that they don't do. They're working on it. They have 10 games, 10 or I think it's 10 or 12 gas games in development. What those games are, we don't know. How long it's going to take before we get them, we don't know. But when you see what is going on, who is really to blame for this? Is it Sony's fault for not going out and making their own Call of Duty?
Well, I would say that they were pretty content on doing third-party deals for a long time.
Yep.
So, is it their fault that they didn't make their own Call of Duty, or is it their fault that they didn't really have any other compelling shooters, right? So, like, I would say that Call of Duty is a one of a kind thing, and making a clone type game of that, I wouldn't necessarily think that necessarily be, but it doesn't have to be that, right? It could take many forms. Like Halo is that for Xbox, you know what I mean? Um, Sony used to make first person shooters. They tried many times. They had Resistance, they had Killzone, they had other games that they had even tried to fund, like Haze and stuff like that. But they are just relegated themselves to, hey, we give up on it. We're just going to get behind COD 100% on this, and they're and Destiny, right? Because they also did the same deal with Destiny for marketing, right? For a long time, and those deals actually propelled them very successfully because those were the two most popular multiplayer online shooters for a long time, right? So it was working. But this is where the risk lies, right? When you don't have complete control over a property and you're using that as a main catapult for your platform, then you have the risk of losing that property or not being able to use it going forward, one or the other. And this is what bit Microsoft several times, right? That's what Microsoft relied on way too much third party in the past, not having control over their IPs and stuff like that on games that they were funding. Um, Games that used to be dedicated to Xbox, but now are completely either multi-plat or sometimes don't even show up on an Xbox now, right? And if you rely so much on that kind of stuff, you have no control of your future. This is one of the reasons why Xbox is so focused on, like, we only really want to invest in the IPs and the franchises that they own now. And that's going from a different model than they had in the past. But yeah, it's gonna hurt Sony, and I don't blame them for caring about the money. You know what I mean? But them acting like it's not fair and stuff like that, that's
Well,
ridiculous.
considering they've been in first place for a decade. Mav, listen, we got breaking
Yeah,
news.
I saw it. Yeah,
I mean, well, listen, there isn't much more to say about Call of Duty other than the fact that this demo slapped. It slapped in a
yeah,
way for me personally, I'm a non Call of Duty player, folks. Understand that. I like multiplayer games. I'm more of a single player guy for time because obviously, I have a house that I take care of. I have Mrs. Boom is obviously priority number one. I got 5 live shows, so there's literally limited time. So to play, multiplayer, sometimes it isn't as convenient as playing a single player game like I'm playing now with Wulong, the demo. But that demo or that beta from Call of Duty was so freaking good that it got me to buy a higher tier level Call of Duty package, and I'm going to be playing day one. I'm going to be playing multiplayer day one. I much as I love, like, as much time as I put into Halo Infinite, I put a lot of time in 12 days worth of play into that. I'm going to be putting a lot of time into Call of Duty because I really enjoyed myself. So with that said, I got to shout out a couple of people in the chat. Glacius EX, Masshole 1977, Joseph Jeem in the chat. I started seeing all of these things about Google Stadia, and then of course Joseph Jeem says, "Boom, waiting to hear your comments on Stadia. Give us that one that quick one too." Well, I pulled the story from The Verge, ladies and gentlemen, and it was written by both Jay Peters and Alex Krantz, and it was posted 28 minutes ago. And it's breaking news, and you're going to get that here on, of course, new episode of X Vlog Live, which is something that we're used to on this channel, Mav.
yeah. We have
Google
breaking news
is
a lot when we go live.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm lucky like that. Now, I saw Pong in the chat. Now, I don't know if Pong is at home, working from home. let me know if you want to pop in for a hot second, Pong. If you're home, well, I'll send you the link. I don't know if he's working or not, but let's get into this.
Yeah, I'll send him a DM real quick too, just to see.
Google is shutting down Stadia. Google is refunding all Stadia purchases, hardware, software, and DLC. Members of the Stadia team will be carrying this work forward in other departments at Google. This is what they're saying, and this is the quote in a blog post from General Manager Phil Harrison. He says this, folks. A few years ago, we launched a consumer gaming service, Stadia. Uh, and while Stadia's approach to streaming games for consumers was built on a strong technology foundation, it hasn't gained the traction with users that we expected. So we've made the difficult decision to begin winding down our Stadia streaming service. Employees on the Stadia team will be distributed to other parts of the company. Harrison says Google sees opportunities to apply Stadia's technology to other parts of Google, like YouTube, Google Play, and its AR efforts. And the company also plans to make it available to our industry partners, which aligns with where we see the future of gaming headed. This is what he wrote. The article also continues and says the writing has been on the wall for Stadia for a while now, and I'd agree with that, Mav. Most recently, when Logitech announced its new cloud gaming handheld last week, and Stadia was one of the few cloud gaming services not mentioned. But Stadia has been facing rumors of its demise practically from its start. Google has had a habit of killing projects only a few years after they launch, and Stadia, a cloud gaming service from a company with few ties to the gaming industry, seemed like a prime candidate for an early demise or exit from the industry. Mag, this is big, big news. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not surprised by this. What are your personal thoughts on the breaking news from The Verge that Stadia is no more?
It's not surprising. I'm glad they're at least issuing full refunds for everything in the that was purchased through their store. Right? That's obviously the right move. And unfortunately, they don't have control over third party retailers. Right? So anybody that bought one from a traditional retailer, good luck getting a refund on that thing.
Yep.
You know, it was interesting to see how quickly, the writing was on the wall when they announced that they basically moved on from developing their own games, right? And once they made that move, it's like, okay, they're not fully into this anymore. It didn't take off like they thought it would. I know some people liked Stadia,
Yeah.
right? I do know some people that really liked it. But it just doesn't, like, I don't know. Google's weird, man. They just like try things and they just huge multi-billion dollar projects and they just like cancel, you know. And this is just another one of those things. So they did say that they're going to use some of the tech that they learned and some of the other industries and stuff that they have, but Microsoft has one less major competition threat in the future right now, unless they decide to get back in the game down the line. But the Google and Amazon are really the two of the bigger players that really had a chance in this future of cloud streaming and gaming to play a big part. So we'll see who fills that voids, because is Sony going to step up their game there as well, and try and really replicate what Microsoft is leading in the forefront of right now? Is Amazon going to stay invested? Like, are they going to abandon ship like Google did? I'm really curious about how this impacts, like, the way that some of these other companies see getting into the gaming space. Also, because if they'll look at what Google tried and they failed, we might as well try either. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of ways to look at this. It's just very interesting. I remember, did they announce something about Google Stream? Wasn't that supposed to be some kind of a transition from Stadia originally?
Yes.
And whatever happened to that? I don't recall any kind of news about Google Stream and ever since that one announcement.
Yeah, you know what? It's typical Google, right? They
Yeah.
announce these things, they don't do anything with it. They make promises and nothing. So I'm not exactly sure what exactly happened to it. But again, the technology, it's from what I understand, I didn't use it. I just it just wasn't for me. A lot of people that did enjoy it for what it was. D Batch, who's part of RDX, I think you know
Yeah.
who D Batch is. He had a lot of nice things to say about it. Not personally for me. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. It's it it makes you wonder, right? Whether or not this comes at a time, folks, where I don't know if Sony tries to use this to their advantage in their complaints to regulators. Oh, look, you see someone else is out of the business. Now it's just Microsoft. You see, look, point the finger at them. I don't know if this is bad timing for Xbox. I personally don't think so, because here's the thing, folks. Cloud gaming, on the surface, sounds great. Some people use it. Most people play mobile or standard console gaming, right? Hardware based console gaming. Cloud is great. It's an interesting theory, but I don't think it's ever going to take over traditional gaming. So when you see all the investment that Microsoft has made into cloud gaming and what they continue to do, I can't fault them for it. I think it's going to be it's an additional choice for gamers. Not a first choice for me, to be quite honest with you. Um, I mean, again, you said what you said about Stadia. There isn't much to say. It closed down. It's out of business. They're
Yeah.
closing it down. At least I think the takeaway from this, from me personally, because I always like to put the human element first, is that the people working there are not going to be let go. They're not going to be displaced. They're going to be put into other aspects of Google, if that's true. Again, I'm just reading what they're reporting, so I'd like to believe that in fact is true. If that's true, then at least you're not going to hear about people, X amount, hundreds of people got laid off from Google Stadia, and now they're without a job in a time where the world really isn't that great if you're out of work, right? So
Mhm.
the question I have for you real quick, as before we move on to one of the other topics, is can you see Sony trying to use this as cannon fodder, so to speak, for regulators?
I don't know. That could they? I mean, really, because Google's been already like s- da- stepping out of this ever since before the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and they didn't really make any big plays on publishers or they kind of invested in some studios originally, I believe, but they didn't really ever even make a really true effort into this in a big way. And a tech company that has as much money as they do, nothing like what Amazon's doing and funding games like Lost World, the big MMO, the a Korean one. There's Amazon's doing a lot of different things that is trying to really stoke their business, and Google just was relying on third party games in their service for the most part. They had canceled pretty much their first party projects that they had started with some of these others with these other teams. So I don't know. I feel like there's too much of a um, would be a misstep if they tried to use that against Microsoft in any kind of way. I think it's more of a competitor in other avenues of tech now to Microsoft with the cloud technology and streaming tech that they have potentially. Shout out to Kasante in the chat was explaining Google's Stream is more of a back end solution, uh, maybe for developers and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the potential would be that these regulators are going to look at this and say, "Hey, all right, Microsoft is leading this side of the industry, right? But where Sony shot themselves in the foot is Sony said it's one industry. Sony said that mobile gaming and cloud gaming and all that stuff is not considered a different industry. So Sony can't complain about them having a foothold on the industry in which Sony has a lead in, right? Sony's also was the first ones to do the cloud. They just haven't done it as well. So they can't complain about that either. What Sony should be looking at is stepping up their game and trying to make their service more feature proof, more valuable to consumers, more enticing to want to subscribe, right? But when you have your executives come out there and say that the service is only for old games, That's not a really good selling point, right? So I don't know if they're going to have too much of an argument there with Google. Amazon's still making big plays. Apple has their own subscription service, and Google still has a subscription service. They just are out of the Stadia game. They still have Google Play, and you see all these different cloud devices being announced and everything. Google is going to be a big part in the Android stores and stuff like that on these devices that are getting launched out there. So Google is a big player in gaming, regardless of if it's with Stadia or not, right? So I think that the overall, it's not going to really impact Microsoft with the Activision Blizzard deal. Um, I think that these regulators just need to be educated, and that's what a lot of people are going to be doing to the regulators right now is just educating them because when they spoke last time, they seemed really naive and didn't understand a damn thing about the industry. Period.
Yep, I
Right?
agree. Yeah.
So you just take your talking points from like what sounded like was written by a Sony fanboy, and put that out there as your reasoning for potentially shutting down a $70 billion acquisition. It came across as really weak. Google was really weak when they even attempted to get into gaming. They stepped their toe in. They didn't go. They didn't dive
Right,
in.
they didn't go
Right.
full in on it, for
Not
sure.
with the streaming, not with Stadia at least. Like we said, like Google is a massive player regardless, right? But with this one aspect now, they're not going to have a Stadia streaming service that's going to compete with either Luna or Game Pass Cloud, So, but we'll see, man. I think the Game Pass value is going to speak for itself over time, and I think that's going to as crazy enough as it sounds. I think Xbox's biggest avenue to make sure the Activision Blizzard deal goes through is just their pro consumer approach to the whole thing in the first place, promoting competition from these other industries. Because the reason that they don't want these companies to have a dominant market share and be in such a situation where they can dictate pricing and dictate the industry to the consumers, and so that way they don't take advantage of consumers, right? That is completely the opposite of everything Microsoft is doing. They are not taking advantage of the consumers in any way. In fact, they're actually improving the experience for consumers in every way.
Yep.
Meanwhile, who has dominant market share position right now in those same territories is a company that is continuously right now taking advantage of their own consumers, which can be pointed to time and time again, which is with examples that we brought to attention in the beginning of the show, which Microsoft and any other people can easily point to those situations as an example of using dominant market share position to unfairly charge your own customers.
Yep.
And that would hold merit. That would hold merit. They've actually gone up, opened up cases against different companies and things in the past in the UK for Google being one of them, taking advantage of their consumers and things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this educated them and maybe didn't have some effects against Sony that they weren't anticipating. I think once the CMA and some of these regulators get educated on what's been going on, this might not have the effects that they want. And I'm wondering how careful Sony is about being about this because you don't want to. They don't want to expose themselves too much
I think they've
either.
already
You know?
exposed themselves. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I don't really recall who it was that said it yesterday, on primetime gaming, but they made the reference that Sony has exposed themselves, and when they shook the tree, meaning this
Yeah.
deal, all the bad fruit that they have put out there has come forward. Look, again, I've gone over it time and time again how anti-consumer, anti-competitive they've been. I don't think I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you that considering the legacy that Sony has and raking their own customers over the coals, it's I think it's going to be very easy to prove to the CMA, to the FTC, that this deal um, doesn't do any of that. Like I said, with everything that Microsoft is doing, first of all, Mag, one of the things left off out of the conversation almost 10 out of 10 times is the fact that Microsoft has backed the biggest union in this country, and has stood by the workers at Activision who have been trying to get unionized, right? Once this deal is done and unions have now made their way into the gaming industry, that's going to be the first time in gaming history that has ever happened. And at the forefront of that was Microsoft saying, "Yeah, we have no problems with unions. It's perfectly fine." I mean, look at how well rated Microsoft is as a company to work for. That's all you have to. That's all the proof I personally need. I mean, the rankings are out there. You hear the people that talk about it. No one ever talks about that.
Yeah. But I think the whole union aspect is a big deal because,
Yeah, it's
um,
huge,
yeah,
dude.
where you have that was one of their main talking points and arguments against Microsoft to begin with, and that got shut down almost immediately when Microsoft said they were willing to allow that. And they even were asked about it, and they said they know understand what this means for the entire company. They had a meeting. I mean, this was not something that they took lightly. I mean, this was a decision from up above, from Satya and the board. Like everybody would sit down and have this discussion about, okay, what would we do with this? You know, how would we handle the situation? What does that mean for the future of Microsoft? What does it mean for the future of the industry? Right. And Phil was actually in an interview and he said when they said that, they understood that it could have ramifications and it would open things up potentially. That's why, but they stand behind it. Right. So if you're looking at, in gaming, there's some unions because there's like voice actors and stuff like that. They have unions and things, that's more of a performance artist type deal, right? But you don't have it within the tech side, right? Like the within the actual development of the games, within the actual hands-on with the tech and building of these games, right? So within like Microsoft, right? If I'm the FTC or one of these other organizations and stuff, having the potential for unions to be allowed within these big giant tech companies, which is not only just a first with gaming like that, but it's also a first with these big tech giants, right? So if you're opening the door to allow unions within those, then you're like, hey, if I shut this down, I'm shutting down that possibility also. It's like a chess piece
Yep.
that Microsoft has here that they are using here in and they have to look at this and be like, okay, well, if we shut this down, that means there's not going to be unions in Microsoft potentially, which means there might not be unions in big tech and stuff like that. And this is like, okay, what do we do here? Well, they got that leverage against us. They're playing. Microsoft has seen all the challenges that were going to be held against them from the start. They laid down those instantly. Day
Yeah.
one after they announced the Activision Blizzard deal, they went and they sent Jim the letter and made the phone call when Sony was crying on Twitter about potentially losing COD. Um, they got in front of the whole union thing. They got in front of the open marketplace app situation. They got in
Yep.
front of the cloud situation with the EU as well. There's all these different things that they've been ahead of, and knowing what the issues were going to be addressed. What they didn't foresee potentially was the fact that there was still going to cling on to any little last thing that they possibly could at these regulators just to make a big deal about the $70 billion acquisition. And that is one gaming franchise, Call of Duty,
Yeah.
right? And what that means to the gaming industry, what that means to gamers on the PlayStation, and it's like come across as this weird world that we're living in which one franchise, one IP can potentially shut down a $70 billion deal that crosses multiple forms of media, multiple forms of devices, platforms, and everything. But one franchise could hold it up potentially. I don't buy it at all. I think
No,
that
me
that's
either.
all just for show right now and just for an excuse, right? They got to have something to go to phase two. They got to have something to make it a point. They got to do something to try and get some kind of concession to prove their relevance as an organization to even exist. If you're not going to go against Microsoft's biggest acquisition in their history, so that's what they're clinging on to the last straw they got, and that last straw they got is COD, right?
Yep.
Which is a weak ass straw if you're talking about an acquisition like this,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
This is not like something that is actually. I mean, I understand Call of Duty is huge. It is massive. It is a massive franchise, but this deal is way bigger than just Call of Duty,
Yeah.
right? And Call of Duty being on PlayStation or not is not going to kill a company. It's not going to cripple them. It's not going to take them out of the industry forever. If that were to happen, then that would be the most incompetent gaming company on the planet
I
that is trying
agree.
to promote themselves as a premium brand. So it's all that's all BS, dude. But I think man, I don't know, I went on a tangent, but
No, no, no. Listen,
yeah,
this is a conversational podcast. We got 415 people here. We're an hour and 5 minutes into the conversation. We do have one more topic to get
yeah,
into. And yeah, listen. I mean, you make a lot of sense about what you're talking about, Sony. Again, tomorrow morning we're going to be talking specifically about stage phase two with the CMA because thanks to OBM of the Xbox era, he dropped something into my DM where they break down that the last date, the last day that this thing could be held up to, unless there's a major problem, is March 1st, 2023. I have some more information about what they had to say about it, and actually who it has been presented to within the CMA. We're going to break all of that down tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're also going to be talking about a recent interview with Tecmo regarding Ninja Gaiden, ladies and gentlemen, and they are not against taking the IP and letting someone else make a game based on it. That they said it clearly. The clear statement was, we have no problem outsourcing this game, which that is, I'm sorry to say, folks, I read that and I have serious opinions on who Microsoft should have make this game. Should it be first of all, Ninja Gaiden, when I look at it, I don't think of it as a Nintendo NES game. I think of Ninja Gaiden as an Xbox game because both Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden Black on the OG Xbox were nothing short of amazing. Eventually, it came to PlayStation, but at that point, I always associated Ninja Gaiden as an Xbox first party game. We're going to talk about that and a bunch of other topics. Again, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be sitting down with the Breakfast with Boom crew. And of course, that is Dreadpool, that is Fuzzy Belvedere, and of course, Web Dave. And I don't know if Crispy Bomb will be joining us. I know he's in the chat. What's up, Crispy? But who knows? You just never know when Crispy's going to show up to drop some bomb knowledge. But I do want to get on to the second, oh, actually, the third topic of the day here. And it's one where I want to talk about what the Wulong developer had to specifically said. I sent this to you in a DM, and I thought it was a conversation that no one really else is having. But it's one I think that we should have, Matt, because there's a lot of really good things here. But before I actually do, I do want to catch up a few super chats that have come in, and let me just load those up. Just give me 1 second. Let me make sure that the list is up to date, and I will read those super chats for you. Say a big shout out to all the super chats that have come in. Again, we can't do these monster giveaways without them, and the channel memberships have been on another level. So big thank you to everyone for that. Drawn TJ drops a $2 super chat and says, we need to play COD when it comes out sometime. Absolutely, dude. No doubt about that. Sir X-Men drops a $2 super chat and says, been so busy. Belated happy birthday, Boom. Love you. Well, love you too, brother. And thank you for the birthday wishes. Yes, my birthday was on Sunday. I am now 52 years old, and yikes. That's all I can say about that. Cloaked Onyx drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, what's going on? What's going to happen to the games? Destiny 2 works very well on Stadia compared to the other streaming services. Yeah, they're shutting down everything, Cloaked Onyx. Everything is being shut down. They are refunding DLC purchases. They are refunding hardware purchases, and they're refunding game purchases. So if you are someone that spent money, definitely look to your emails to see what they're going to be doing and how they're going to be sending you your refunds. According to the
yeah.
article, they're going to be issuing them across the board.
I got
Yeah, I
a
mean,
question on that. Like, okay, so did they sell like cards, like physical cards that had points on them or whatever at storefronts? You know?
I don't think so. I actually think that you just bought it through
Yeah.
Google. to be
I don't know
honest
if
with
they had,
you.
a lot of like Xbox or PlayStation, at a kiosk at a grocery store or
Yeah,
whatever, and
yeah,
you'll see
yeah.
like those cards. I was wondering if they had sold cards that had those points on them and people were using those to get Stadia games at all. I wonder how they could possibly refund
Oh,
that, you
Def
know?
Leppard says, "Welcome to the club." Boom. Yes. Well, yes. I mean, that means you're as old as I am. And shout out to Crispy Bomb, whose internet bombed on him yesterday, and he couldn't join the conversation on Primetime Gaming. He is back, and hopefully we can get him in there tomorrow morning. Shout out to the Lethal Papa out there, keeping the chat safe and confident as always. Walks silently, carries a big band stick. We love you, Lethal. Thank you for that. And Brett Bingham drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says Xbox should fund Project Gray. Dude, we are talking about Project Gray tomorrow. I'm going to be showing some video on that. That game, if you don't know what we're talking about, it is a game. I actually thought it was like a follow-up or a sequel to Prey. Remember the original Prey with the American Indian?
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I thought that's what it was, but it is based on the American Indian heritage. It is a third person over the shoulder game. It looks I mean, what's crazy, folks, is like I said, tune in tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. I'm going to be showing the video. I'm not going to be putting any sound because I don't want to get any hit with any unfair use shenanigans on YouTube. But the gameplay is sick looking. Like it's bonkers good. And what's even more insane, one person from Korea designed that game. And they put it out there as a test clip because he wants to get developers to help make the game. I saw that. I would have, if I'm Microsoft, I'm immediately signing this game to a deal. It looks freaking awesome. But let's get to the topic I'm talking about. Let me just pull up the notes right here. Now, got to shout out Hazador Gaming. He constantly puts out great tweets. If you're not following him, it's at Hazador Gaming, GAMIN, no G at the end. He is a prominent part of the community. He always puts out great posts. So I saw his post, and these statements come away from Team Ninja's Masaki Yama Yamagaya. And this is he's talking specifically about Xbox. Now, again, last night we talked about their push into Japan, how big of a deal it is. Jeff Grubb seems to think that their next acquisition is going to come out of Japan, and it's going to be a big one. I agree there. I don't know who it's going to be. Like I said, because I'm a stan for Sega, I hope it's them. But they have let people know that they're going to be continuing acquiring studios and publishers after the ABK deal because Phil Spencer basically said we can't put the industry on pause, so we're gonna be a part of the conversation. Well, this is what Team Ninja head Masaki Yamagaiwa had to say. Check this out, folks. We feel like there's a greater presence of the Xbox platform here in Japan. We're definitely seeing it here. Game Pass is helping a lot. A lot more people get familiar with the Xbox platform. But they continue. Says this. However, from our perspective, just from a number standpoint, Japan seems to be pretty dominated by Nintendo consoles and the Switch. But yeah, we definitely are feeling in Japan that Xbox is definitely trying to take a bigger foothold with the current platform. And finally, they say this: we do think it is a really big positive for having the game on Game Pass. Is that with so many new players trying it out, that will help the online community grow, and there'll be a lot more players for people to play with online multiplayer aspects of the game. Now, there is a multiplayer co-op aspect to Wulong, which is why they wanted it on Xbox Game Pass specifically, Matt, because, well, when you have a game that has a very hard difficulty spike, and you saw me, I was playing, I died a gazillion times. It's a game that a lot of people will not play because of its difficulty. But it's a game that if it's in Xbox Game Pass, you're going to download it because you're like, you know what? There's no risk here. There's no risk of spending $60 on this game when it's in my Game Pass subscription. And maybe you play it, and just like, like any of the other Soul games, you might find that maybe this is your bag. Maybe you like it, but maybe your buddy plays it and you're like, you know something, we could play this together. And I know that you are big on the multiplayer game aspect of it. I know this is a game that you're probably going to play with Pong. This game does have a hard difficulty spike, but co-op is being added from day one. When you hear the head of Ninja Theory, I'm sorry,
Team
Team
Ninja.
Ninja,
Yeah.
talking about this being a big deal for them personally, getting it into Game Pass, Microsoft's push into the region. What are your thoughts on all of this?
I think it's just more positivity coming. Again, we talked about it a little bit earlier, right? About Xbox gaining market share because of value and all these things, but it also has to do with the games and the types of games we're bringing to the platform. And this has been an interesting conversation I've been seeing on Twitter and social media the last several days that completely misses the mark. People are saying that Xbox doesn't need to invest in Japanese games because Xbox gamers don't play Japanese
That's
games. And
ridiculous.
then they
Yeah.
showed like sales numbers and all these things about like, well, this game didn't perform well in 2018 or whatever. And it's just number one, does Xbox want to invite more players to the ecosystem that don't play there currently? Yes, that's what trying to grow your business is. If you only focused on what you have, then you're not going to grow, right? That's just one aspect. Number two, a lot of Xbox gamers do like Japanese games, and when they miss the mark or when they miss the system, they don't show up. Guess what? They have to go out and buy a PlayStation. So they buy the game on PlayStation, right? And it becomes a place where a certain type of gamer a lot of times would even avoid Xbox because they don't have those types of games, right? So you're trying to increase your presence in an area that prominently loves those kind of games, right? Also, you're trying to attract more consumers everywhere. The key is Game Pass because guess what? The barrier for entry is almost nothing, right? So if you're in Japan or one of these regions, first off, you have an option to buy a nice little small console at a very low price. And as Phil said, that over most of the new users, I believe, in those areas are on Series S. So that's working.
Yeah.
Other thing is, guess what? You got the whole access to Game Pass on mobile devices. You got it on TVs now. All these different things. So in an area that is very prominent on used to playing on handheld devices and mobile gaming as well, having that option on those platforms makes a lot of sense, right? So guess what? Barrier for entry is so low that you may have somebody that's intrigued to play one game that's coming to that service, and they sign up and then they stick into the service. And that's their approach now, not just to Japan, but to the entire gaming industry and everybody everywhere. They want to welcome as many different kinds of people as they can. And if they have to invest in more areas and more different places to help grow that ecosystem, that's what we're going to do. That's what they're going to do. And we heard Grub on, I think it was on Giant Bombcast the other day about them talking about purchasing, acquiring a publisher
Yep.
after the Activision Blizzard deal is done, right? So with something like that possible in the future, that adds another level of trust and awareness in that area as well, if they are able to do that. So they're going to keep at this now. They're not. This is not like Xbox from the 360 area that transitioned to Xbox One. That kind of it wasn't working. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do this. They're like all in, right? And they're not just all in on the shooter train, on the RPG train, which they're strongest right now. They're all in on all these different genres. We're seeing RTSs, we're seeing
Yep.
strategy, different kinds of strategy games. We're seeing like uh, farming type games. You're seeing like all these JRPGs now. You're seeing games like Blaze Blue and Guilty Gear come to Game Pass now.
Yep.
Seeing like Danganronpa came to Game Pass. You're seeing Nino Kuni come to Game Pass. You're seeing these franchises and games that have been avoiding Xbox for a long time now be a huge focal point and marketed as part of their service, right? So it is going to be growing presence, and that's the most intriguing thing from that interview was them actually acknowledging that people are starting to pay more attention to Xbox in Japan, right? It's becoming more of a thing where it's like people are becoming more aware, and that's how you start. You have to start with the awareness, and so you have to people start talking. Make oh yeah, I do this. Oh check this out. It's word of mouth. And then it starts growing and it becomes okay to do that. And it becomes more cool to own an Xbox or to play on
Yep.
cloud gaming or on a different device or whatever. And they're completely making those waves right now, and it's already succeeding more than it has in the past. But I see it growing even further, and them becoming more of a player in those markets for sure. So games like Wolong help a lot, even though it's multi-plat. You have that game coming to Game Pass day one, and they were actually talking about the multiplayer aspect and how it can help their games. We've seen multiple devs come out recently and say how Game Pass has helped their games as well. So it's a good thing to see. I feel like these developers and people that are actually in the industry keep shutting down these narratives that are being used against Xbox all the time. And Wolong developers just completely shut down a lot of narratives, even just in one little interview. So I love seeing that.
Yeah, me too. And that go and I tell you something that goes to your point where like Lies of P that
Hmm.
normally would it looks like a Sony game, right? Like it looks like a
Yep.
game you would find on PlayStation. Well, that's an exclusive to Xbox.
Yeah. Game Pass
Which
day one on that too.
Game Pass day one. So again, they are knocking down barriers. They are
Yeah, I think that
knocking
is that
down.
it is coming to PlayStation as well, though. I think it's
Is
multi-plat.
it?
Yeah, it's coming to PlayStation, but guess what? Boom,
Oh,
they tricked you.
I actually didn't know
It
that,
worked.
to be honest with you. Yeah, you
It
see?
worked, right? The marketing works, right? And in fact, the weird thing was actually at the Gamescom show that they had, or I forget what it was called, like, but Lies of P when they were giving out those random little awards, won the most anticipated
Oh, you're right.
PlayStation
You're
game.
absolutely you're right. Yes.
It
Yes.
won the most anticipated PlayStation game, but it's on Game Pass day one, and it has marketing rights with Xbox. So that was funny. People were looking at Keely like, "Did you
And
just
that
try
just
and do that
goes
on
to show you,
purpose?"
like, I'm in the business, folks, and I honestly thought that it was an
Yeah.
Xbox exclusive. It turns
Yeah,
out
how
that
many
it
people
is
think you can
multi-plat.
only
We know
play?
about that.
How many people think you can still only play COD on PlayStation right now? I mean, it's just crazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, look,
Like,
here's the thing. The bottom line is that they are making, and again, I agree with you. I saw a lot of people running with the narrative that Microsoft should simply just abandon Japan, forget it, they've lost,
yeah.
whatever. That I'm glad that they didn't, because there is, according to Phil Spencer, 1.7 billion gamers
Mhm.
in Japan. Now, what gamers are they? Are they all PlayStation gamers, or are they Xbox gamers or Nintendo gamers? No, they're just gamers. Most of them are probably mobile gamers, to be honest with you. That's probably because mobile in Japan and in the Asian markets are just monster big. But look, this has been a great, not only close to 90-minute show.
Yeah.
Again, we had over 400 people here. I got to thank all of you folks for coming out supporting Double Barrel Gaming. Obviously, this is stream 4 of 5. I'm doing 5 streams a week, Monday through Friday, all different shows, all different opinions, all different panel members. Today I was very very fortunate to be able to work with Mav, and I want to thank all of everyone that came here that has been supporting the channel through channel memberships, through super chats, and of course, the most important thing, likes and views, as well as subs. If I didn't get a chance to say hello to you personally, because there's so many people here, I apologize. It's one of my things. I like to try and reach out and say hello to everybody. But look, Mav, we got to sell your brand, brother. I want you to talk about Fun Speculation, the shows that you got going on. You got one coming up, obviously, tonight, PM in the PM with Pong Soul. You got tomorrow night's Xbox Ultimate podcast coming up, right? That Xbox Ultimate Podcast. That's
Yep.
correct. And yeah, I think what you guys do over there are fantastic, and I would love to see more people get over there and sub. Talk about it, brother. Sell your brand. Tell everyone where they can support you on YouTube, check you out on all kinds of streaming services, as well as reach out to you on social media.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you inviting me to X Vlog. It's awesome time. It's also great to have breaking news while we're here on the
Yes,
show as
indeed.
well, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about that and a lot more tonight on PM and the PM. If you want to check out our shows, check out Fun Speculation on YouTube. If you just Google Fun Speculation, you'll find me. But on Twitter as well, Fun Speculation. I tweet quite a bit about when we're about to go live. We do lots of different things, co-streams for gaming shows and stuff like that. I do videos when I have time to put out some vids. Then also we do lots of game streams. I stream games on YouTube quite a bit. Those streams also go to Twitch. Nobody watches on Twitch. Our audience is like 99.99999% YouTube, which is it's just crazy. Yeah, the same 2 years, right? The same 2 years of streaming to both. But YouTube is embraced this community has embraced us a lot over here, and I appreciate it. But yeah, check us out there. And if you want to check out our shows specifically, Mondays Fun Speculation Podcast is at 10 p.m. Eastern, and that's a show where we go over all different gaming news, and we have a pretty damn big panel there as well, an awesome group of guys. And Thursdays is Pong Soul and I at 7 p.m. Eastern, so that is tonight. We're got a lot of stuff to talk about because Thursdays lately have just been full of news, and we got hit with another whammy today. So, and then Friday nights, this is a show that goes a little crazy sometimes. We have a blast. We take things left quite a bit, but it's just a bunch of friends hanging out, friends and family hanging out, talking games
Yep.
and talking Xbox. And that's Friday nights on Xbox Ultimate Podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern. Again, all on the Fun Speculation channel. And again, thanks, Boom. And
No,
chat, you
thank
guys
you,
rock.
brother. Definitely appreciate it. Yeah, listen, it was great to work with you. A gold T in the chat. I want to say welcome, brother. It's a name I haven't seen before. If you're new, consider subscribing. He wants to know what game I'm playing in the background. This is called Proteus. It is Quake meets Doom with an old school, somewhat
Yeah.
pixelized graphics, as well as a new school RPG element where you can buy guns and you can upgrade to double jumps and jet boots and things of that nature. It's in Xbox Game Pass right now. This game is absolute freaking fire. It's just one of my favorite. That's all I've actually been playing the last couple of days. I only recorded. I actually recorded two sessions. The first one went through no problem. Second one just crapped out, and I played for like an hour and didn't record anything. I hate when that happens. But yeah, this is Proteus. This is an Xbox Game Pass. Go check it out. It is absolutely amazing. Again, folks, thank you so much for supporting Double Barrel Gaming, supporting X Vlog Live. Of course, I'm going to close out the show, folks, with something that's important to me. Hopefully, one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of X Vlog Live.